With that, welcome to Inside This Week, opening edition of Big Ten Today. I'm your host, Rick Pizzo. Excited to take you down to West Lafayette, where Barry Odom has a team full of transfers and unknown expectations. We'll hear from our training camp crew, as well as comments from Dani Busboom Kelly, the preseason number football. While Tom Allen couldn't quite sustain the success his team enjoyed during the COVID-shortened season of 2020, there's a different feel after Curt Cignetti's squad made history a year ago. Dave Revson, Howard Griffith, and Jerry DiNardo were in Bloomington over the weekend and have much more on the Hoosier hopes to run it back.
Rick, thanks. Pretty amazing year last year for Indiana. We're talking about a program that had never had double-digit wins in a season. They win 11. Yep. They had double-digit wins by double digits last year. I mean, it really is incredible how much better they were. And so now the question becomes, how do you carry it forward? How does it not be just a one-year blip? And how does this become who they are consistently as a program? We had a front row seat here today to check out a practice. What do you think? Are they going to be able to take that next step and become a consistent winner?
Well, I think they have all the tools that are out there for them to be a consistent winner and continue to do that. And I think one of the things it starts out with is just the hunger and the desire and wanting to prove a lot of people wrong when you think about what they were able to achieve last year.
I was really impressed with practice today. You guys had seen practice last year. I didn't, so it's clear that Coach Cignetti has a blueprint for what he wants to do every day. But he did come off last season saying that we look different against the big boys. And what that means is they've got to get better in the defensive line and the offensive line. Certainly the offensive line looked impressive today, especially with the 3 portal additions. Defensive line, I think the talent that they've taken from the portal is good. I just don't think they're far along technically as they'd like to be. But he wants to change what it looks like with the big boys, and they've done a good job in the offseason doing that. With their schedule, it's a good way that they can get those portal line of scrimmage guys ready for Illinois and a tough Big Ten string.
Yeah, Illinois, Iowa, Oregon, first 3 Big Ten games, and you have the huge game against Penn State as well. So it's right off the bat. You've got 3 of, at least on paper, your 4 toughest Big Ten games. I mean, if there's any indication of you don't know what you're going to get once the season starts, I mean, we're sitting at the place that no one would have looked at it last year and said Indiana's one of the toughest games, and they turned out to be. So we don't know, but at least on paper, that's kind of what it looks like. One of the big questions is at quarterback, and Curtis Rourke came in last year and just did a phenomenal job. I mean, he ended up in the top 10 in the Heisman voting, which is pretty remarkable from where he was. Now Fernando Mendoza is the starting quarterback. He was at Cal last year. He was a guy who finished 7th in the ACC in passing efficiency. Part of it was he was under duress last year. He did not have a great offensive line in front of him. But, man, you look at him, the physical tools are incredibly impressive. And then we spent some time with him, and interpersonally, leadership-wise, all that stuff off the charts.
And I think that's an important part when you talk about this part of the season, in training camp, really going back to the spring, once he was in this program, really his ability to lead, his leadership shows. It's all, to me, it's off the charts. And that's what you need as a portal player when you can come in and want to lead the team. He has all the tools, the physical gifts to go out and make the plays. He just has to get it done in the game for the Hoosiers. And I think he'll be able to do that. And you guys mentioned the schedule a little bit. It'll give all of these players an opportunity to get up to speed and get to where they need to, and also build confidence in what they're doing.
You know, I think we leave all these camp visits where there's a quarterback competition really not knowing enough about a quarterback. You watch them throw. You know, they're not even tackling in this camp this fall, and so the contact's limited. You don't know what the quarterback's, how he's going to respond to the pressure and all those things, and we don't know how he's going to respond when it's up to him to take the team down the field to win a game when they're behind. And until a quarterback proves they can do that, you don't know if you have a complete quarterback. But he certainly looks like he has the tools.
Yeah, and he has the weapons around him as well. And, you know, again, last year, the emergence of some of these guys. I mean, Elijah Surratt became one of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten. Omar Cooper, a big play guy. They've got some portal additions, a wide receiver, including one of Mendoza's former Cal teammates. Roman Hemby comes in at running back. I mean, there are plenty of weapons here around him for him to have a very good year.
Yeah, I think we start out at the wide receiver position. The way these guys just pluck the ball effortlessly out of the air, to me, it really jumps off, and you can see why we're able to make so many plays. Now they have another quarterback that really can get the ball around and push the ball down the field. You mentioned him being under duress a little bit when he was at Cal. To me, that's a good sign as well, to know that under pressure, he's able to execute. Now, if we can give him more time to read the field, scan the field, find those receivers, and have a strong running game, this offense can make the plays that it needs to, that it made last year as well.
Yeah, hard to come to a lot of conclusions watching one practice, but it seems to me that they're going to enter the season offensively ahead of the defense, especially at the line of scrimmage. But the way the schedule lays out with the non-conference games, that's going to allow the defense perhaps to catch up to the offense.
And it was interesting to watch Mendoza too, and talking to the coaching staff here, there is a sense, look, he's a little bit more mobile, and Curtis Work was injured last year, right? I mean, we found out at the end of the year that he had a little bit of a knee injury that was a problem in his telling, throughout the year. So this is different now. Mendoza gives you a little bit more of that element of running the football from the quarterback spot. So that certainly helps you. Last thing, and I think in being around Coach Cignetti, I think maybe we know the answer. I don't know that other people know the answer. So maybe it's just kind of conveying his philosophy. But how do you guard against complacency, Jerry? How do you guard against this notion of we had this breakthrough year last year, and this is now just going to be who we are every year, regardless of what we do?
The answer is it's different with every team. With this team, I think you look at the first three games. I mean, they clearly are going to have a better team than the first three opponents. And if we don't look like a better team, if we win games and we still have 6 missed assignments in the offensive line and a couple misreads here, and we void the C gap on short yardage, all those type of things, which you still win the game. But if we go into the conference play like that, we have a problem. So you show them the complacency on the great big screen, and you say, this isn't good enough. That's how I think you do it here. Another year, it might be a different way you find out.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I like to talk about what's happening at the front of the room and the person that's delivering a message. And he's not complacent at all, and he's hungry. And we also have to remember that there's still a lot of players on this team that came with him, so there's still a lot to prove, and they're being questioned. They've been questioned since really they went on this run and people started to talk about the schedule. So there's still players that are in this locker room that feel like there is still a lot to prove, even though they had the success they had last year.
Now remember, they're motivating the opponents too. Yeah. I mean, Brett Bielema in the first conference game is going to say, hey, guys, this was a playoff team.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's not something that opposing coaches have said a lot about Indiana.
Yeah,
and so
they've never said it technically. I agree. Look, I think the things that stand out to me are, interestingly enough, I think they have a chip on their shoulder because of what you're talking about, that people downplayed their success last year because of what they did, the schedule that they did it against, and that when they went up against the big boys, they didn't necessarily measure up in the way that you might expect them to, or that they hope to. I think there's that. And then there's the way that he talks about being process-oriented, and that everything starts from ground zero, that you start every day essentially from ground zero, and you have a list of things you're looking to accomplish, and how well do you do, and are you getting better, and if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. All those kinds of things lend themselves to not being complacent. Yeah. But again, you can say them. Can you do them?
You're going to have to show them if it happens.
Yep, absolutely. Really fun team to be around, Rick. Back to you now.
Welcome back to Big Ten Today. Barry Odom completely flipping the roster at Purdue in hopes of continuing his recent success at other stops. Odom won 19 games in 2 years at UNLV, and his teams have been bowl eligible in each of his last 5 seasons as head coach. Our training camp crew has more from West Lafayette after spending a day with Odom and the Boilers.
Rick, thanks. And Barry Odom certainly with a tall task here, with Purdue coming off one of the worst seasons in its history, 11 losses, which tied a school record. Dave Revston, Howard Griffith, and Jerry DiNardo. And guys, this is an overhaul here of a roster. I mean, you talk about 119 guys on the roster. 82 of them are new to the program this year. We had a chance to watch a scrimmage here on Saturday. What stood out to you as you watched Barry Odom start this rebuild?
Yeah, it was a long scrimmage, to say the least. As many people and many reps that were taken out there today. But I think one of the keys is this is a rebuild, right? And I think that's the first thing we should acknowledge. And it's going to be a process just by the mere fact of how many new faces are running around on the field. So you have to get comfortable with those players that are out there, trying to understand what it is that they can do to help the program move forward, and also find the guys that you're going to be able to count on each and every weekend and be able to lead the program.
You know, there may have been bigger rebuilds in the past 19 years that we've been doing this, past 18, I guess. But you mentioned how many new people are. And so a rebuild in the portal, it's kind of good news, bad news, right? The good news is you might be able to find some players. Part of the bad news is it's a whole new team. You have no veterans on your team. Now, Coach Odom came from UNLV, so you know some of the people he brought with him. You know that actually helps. But you wonder if as we go forward, the portal's going to help or hurt. By that I mean, if they don't win a lot of games this coming year, but they have some good players, are they going to lose them? So it's not only gaining portal players, it's trying to keep your best players as you win some games. I mean, I'm not sure how many we can predict they can win, but it's not going to be, you know, they're not going to have a great season, my guess is, right? So if some of the best players on their team are approached in the portal after this year, it kind of counters bringing people in the portal.
Well, and how much of that, I mean, it feels to me like one of the big tasks here is to build the program and build the culture. And if you build the culture and if you have guys buying into the culture and seeing the progress that's being made, that leads people to rally around that cause. So how much of that is the challenge for Barry Odom here in year one?
You know, when you talk about culture, it's a word that everyone uses in college football now. It's just the way you do things, right? And so it really doesn't take long. It happens pretty fast, especially if you, as the leader and the guardian of the culture, doesn't let anyone compromise it. So I don't think that takes all that long. I think nowadays players, they hear that word so much, they understand what it is, and so I think you can build a culture pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think it's about really just understanding who you are and what you have the opportunity to accomplish. And I think to take this even a little further, I know we were talking about this team, but you go back even a year ago, just since the portal has started, there's been a lot of turnover here. So for me, it's really about stabilizing the program as well. And a part of that is getting the right guys in to make sure that your system and your organization are all pulling in the right direction. But you're right, when you talk about being able to do that through the portal, they have an opportunity to get the right guys that are going to come in here and really fit what this program wants.
I mean, 2022, they were in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
I mean, and we go out there today, and there's 50 new players, and you know, I mean, this thing fell as quick as anything that I can remember, and it takes a lot longer to build it than it does for it to fall apart. I think you're going to see Coach Odom build it, but it's going to take longer than the 2 years it took since they've been in the championship game.
And one thing that he talked about is trying to get as many reps for as many players as he can. He told me about running essentially 2 practices simultaneously, so everyone's getting reps. You're doing the same thing on 2 different fields. We saw a ton of guys get reps. Every single guy who was suited up, at least the plan was that those players were going to see reps in this scrimmage here today. So that's a huge part of it. And then, you know, you're talking about what happened a year ago, Jerry. He made a point to me to say, we don't talk about it at all because it's irrelevant.
Of course.
There's the overwhelming majority of players weren't even here, so it doesn't even matter. So let's talk a little bit about what we saw. I think people are interested, like offensively, what's this going to look like? Defensively, what did you guys see?
Well, I don't know that you can tell what an offense is going to look like until you pick a starting quarterback. And, you know, Malachi and Ryan, they're in a battle, so we don't know what that's going to look like. They're not going to be a big physical run team. You know, they're not built for that right now. Does that mean they're going to throw it every down? No, but they might sprinkle in some option depending on who the quarterback is. They can be more creative, and I think all teams feel this way. You can be more creative on offense when you're building a program and maybe don't have the roster that you like. The one thing you have to do regardless is Your offense and your defense and your kick game should be designed, in my opinion, to beat the matchup opponents. I looked at their schedule. I think they have 5 matchups and 1 non-conference rival, and I think rivals are always considered matchups regardless of who's got the better team or not.
Yeah, I think when you look at this if we just look at from the offensive standpoint and what this is going to look like for me, it really comes down to making sure you're protecting football. So for an offense, there are 3 things that you want to be able to do, right? You want to be able to kick extra points, kick field goals, or punt the ball. Turnovers is not a part of that equation. You don't want to put your team in that situation so that they're playing from behind and having to throw the ball all over the place behind on downs, because if you can stay on pace and schedule offensively, that can open things up. And I do believe it's going to be more of a spread style of offense where you're going to try to spread and find those creases, whether it's for the run game or also the pass game.
And as we talk in the green room a lot, you have to avoid a pass rush drill. I mean, if you're not running the ball at all, and the opponents with going against this particular roster, if they don't respect the run on offense, it's going to be a long day.
And again, these are players who have played, not necessarily here, but they are bringing in the second most FBS starts via transfer of any team in the Big Ten from this year. Indiana, the only one bringing in more. So we'll see. Again, part of the challenge is how do you fit it together? The level that they played at is a little different in the Big Ten. The schedule, which isn't all that cooperative, frankly. So a lot of variables at play here, Rick, but fun to watch Purdue and Barry Odom in year 1.
Dave, thanks. Purdue will certainly miss safety Dylan Thieneman, who led all Big Ten defensive backs with 104 tackles during his sophomore year in West Lafayette before transferring to Oregon during the offseason. Ducks head coach Dan Lanning says Thieneman has already been an impact player during his very short time on the field in Eugene.
Intelligence, I think he's a really instinctual player. He's sticky at the top. Right at the top of routes, he's going to be engaged. But made an outstanding play today in practice. Where he was able to get out and go make a play on the ball. Which that's what you want. You want guys with ball skills. Got to go back and look at the film and see if he's in the proper position. But production matters, and he's again an intelligent player that's able to be tight in coverage.
It's certainly rare, but not unheard of for safeties to go in the first or second round, Dan, as you know, and as somebody who's coached or recruited several of the guys who have over the last 10 years. If Dylan's going to put himself in that position in December or January to be in that position to where it's not even a conversation, what does he have to do in your mind to be the next one of those guys?
December, January, and the NFL draft are so far from my mind. So far from my mind. Today, we got to get better, right? And Dylan's got to continue to get better. Is Dylan a special athlete, special talent? Absolutely. But none of us are thinking about the NFL draft right now, himself included.
Of course, Nebraska #1 in the preseason AVCA volleyball poll over the weekend. It was the annual red-white scrimmage. How about Harper Murray? 15 kills and 9 digs. Also had 3 aces. Andy Jackson continuing to get better every year. She had 9 kills. And Rebecca Alec, a team-high 16 kills, hit nearly .433. Larry Putney, Kathy Wieskamp catching up with first-year head coach Dani Busboom Kelly after the scrimmage.
Do you have more answers after today or fewer?
I wasn't expecting today to clear everything up and make it an easy decision. I think this team is just going to be really balanced all year, and we're going to be able to rely on so many people.
How seamlessly has it been to incorporate the new players in? It seems like they just fit right in, and the level of play that this new class that's come in is very comparable to the players that you have. Veterans.
A big majority of them were here this spring, so that was huge. You have Campbell and T, and they got to acclimate right away. And then you add those other ones in who are really high-level athletes and players that have played on great club teams, and Virginia played on a pro team, so it has been pretty seamless to get everybody acclimated together.
You were especially good on the block tonight. Is that something you've been working on?
Yeah, it has been. I feel like last season in my freshman year, my blocking struggled a little bit. So that's been something I put in a lot of work in spring in the past few months.
Been very clean up at the net. And one of the things, from my perspective, it looks like the game has slowed down for you. You're seeing things really well, which is allowing you to make really great shots, good decisions on setup of block. Have you done anything or do you just feel your experience has put you in that position?
Yeah, I think it's just experience. Playing here for the past 2 years, I've learned a lot and I've seen a lot. So I feel like I'm at the age where I'm not getting any better. It's just how consistent can I be and how much smarter can I be.
So Nebraska volleyball preseason number 1. On the football field, the Huskers are among 3 teams receiving votes in the recently revealed AP preseason poll, along with USC and Iowa. 6 Big Ten teams are inside the top 20, led by Penn State at number 2 in one of the closest preseason votes ever. The Nittany Lions just behind Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, Illinois, Michigan, and Indiana, all among that group. And even with some issues remaining under center in 2024, Iowa's offense saw the Big Ten's second-best year-to-year increase in points per game. Now, second-year OC Tim Lester has to figure out a way to keep it going without All-American running back Caleb Johnson to fall back on. But don't take my word for it. We'll offer a hawk's eye view of Iowa football training camp coming up later tonight as Dave Revson, Jerry Donato, and Jake Butt share their thoughts after a trip to Iowa City. The Iowa Football Training Camp Show debuts Monday. That's coming up at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, with multiple airings throughout the course of the evening. And that'll do it for this edition of Big Ten Today. Do want to give a shout out to Michigan State women's golfer Brooke Bierman, who made it all the way to the U.S. Women's Amateur Finals before falling to Megan Ganne. Bierman, the runner-up in one of the biggest women's tournament on the planet. And that'll do it for this edition of Big Ten Today. For everyone here at the Big Ten Network, I'm your host, Rick Pizzo. As always, we appreciate you spending some time with us, and we'll be back to do it again Tuesday, same time, noon Eastern, 11 Central. Hope to see you then.